Welcome back to the channel, Micah here, and this week Louis Vuitton just announced that next month they'll be releasing a collaborative spring-summer capsule collection with Tyler, the creator. And I've seen very mixed reactions to this announcement, with some people really loving the lookbook and the campaign, even going on to proclaim Tyler as a better suited creative director for Louis Vuitton over Pharrell, and others being extremely offended by even the thought of that statement. And looking at the collection, I noticed some references and details that I hadn't really seen being spoken about elsewhere. So I think in this video we'll break down the collection, and then I'll get into the real cause of where this Tyler's a better designer than Pharrell narrative has kind of come from. So to start off, this collaboration is pretty much exactly what Pharrell wants to do with Louis Vuitton. It falls perfectly in line with the lovers theme that he outlined in his first show, which is just him wanting to use his time at Louis Vuitton to work with different people in his personal life and business network and have them all kind of output something under the house while he's there. So I wasn't actually that surprised when I first saw this announcement, and it made a lot of sense to me. Now, for anyone familiar with Tyler, the creator, I don't think it takes a very keen eye to tell that he clearly had a lot of creative input in this collaborative collection. Over recent years, Tyler has become very well known for his preppy but colourful and playful style. And I think part of why it's become so synonymous with him is because not only has he managed to really refine and personalise this style, but the music he makes, which is what he's primarily known for, sounds exactly like the clothes he wears and the luggage he carries and the cars that he drives. This image and style doesn't just stop at what he's wearing. When you've weaved it into everything you're doing, it becomes a very easy world for people to follow. And that world that he's created is essentially the basis of this collaboration, and I think is what makes it so quickly identifiable as a Tyler collaboration in this case. However, I'd argue that this is actually more of a collaboration with Tyler's brand Golf Le Fleur, as opposed to just some general collab with Tyler, the creator. So that colourful, preppy style that I described earlier, pastel cardigans with loafers, is a style that Tyler's really crafted into Golf Le Fleur. And the reason I'm specifying this is because Tyler actually has two brands. He has Golf Wang and Golf Le Fleur. Le Fleur is where his elevated ideas, motifs, and execution really takes place. And it's a lifestyle brand that he's really been working on establishing as luxury. So that's reflected in the quality of the things that are put out, but also the pricing. Whereas Golf Wang is more of a diffusion line that some of the ideas from Le Fleur are trickled down into, but it tends to act more as affordable streetwear and merch for fans. So the reason that I say this is more so a collaboration with Golf Le Fleur is because this collab contained all of the motifs that Tyler had outlined as being specific to his brand Le Fleur, such as the dog mascot Daryl being present in some of the logos and graphics in this collection. But let me not get too ahead of myself. Let's dive into some of the looks and the collection, and I can highlight some of these Le Fleur motifs along the way. And yeah, from these campaign images alone, you already see the pastel colors being used in full force. Not just on the clothes, but also on the set of the shoot. I mean, this chest photo is all pastel. It's pretty much all blue, brown, and pink. And I guess one of the most eye-catching part of these images is the new monogram that they've revealed for this collection, which they've called the Craggy monogram. And quite literally hand-drawn by Tyler, the new monogram includes codes from Le Fleur, such as their dog mascot Daryl that I mentioned earlier, as well as these pastel flower logos that Le Fleur are quite well known for as well. Over the years, Tyler has often shared his hand-drawn designs for a lot of the pieces that he goes on to make. So in this case, it kind of feels like a reference back to that, to just straight up have his hand-drawn designs be on the garment itself. And I think it's pretty obvious, especially on the cream canvas one, that Tyler's new Craggy monogram is really reminiscent of Takashi Murakami's previous collaborative work with LV and the monogram that he did back then. In his 2022 interview with Rob Report, Tyler actually noted that the Murakami collaboration is actually what initially sparked his interest in trunks and luggage. And well, we've seen how his interest in trunks has really broadened over the years. So I'm sure that Takashi Murakami was at least a little in mind when he was working on his Craggy monogram. But yeah, this monogram being on pretty much all of the leather goods shows that LaFleur's codes have started to be woven right through into the collection. And that pretty much remains true when you start looking at the individual looks. A lot of that whimsical preppiness that I mentioned earlier is there, you know, suits with shorts and a pop of playful colour, cardigans with a tie, shorts and sandals with borderline wacky but fun footwear. And it's in the details of these sorts of items that you start to see that the collaboration really skews towards LaFleur as opposed to just Tyler himself. For example, LaFleur have a whole Instagram post just about their mascot, Daryl, that I mentioned earlier. His presence and logo was only introduced in that brand last season with a collection that came out towards the end of the year. But in this LV collection, there's a whole Daryl bag. Daryl is on ties. There's a bunch of different graphics dedicated to him on pieces like the windbreaker and different tees. There's a Daryl belt, as well as a Tyler the Creator LV dog carrier. And obviously he's on the monogram as well. Another example of these codes being present is LaFleur have a whole Instagram post dedicated to how LaFleur blue is one of their signature colors and wavy lines are one of the main motifs of the brand. So how does this translate to LV? Well, obviously there's blue all over the collection. There are wavy sole derbies in the LaFleur blue color and other pastel colors as well. And the luggage and the tags and the keychains and other trinkets in the collection all have wavy lines instead of straight ones to highlight that motif. Flower prints and logos, which LaFleur translates to in English, are not only seen on the monogram, but are used in different graphics and details across the collection. They're on the soles of the footwear, on belts, on leather patches and other luggage tags as well. And it's in these recurring details and motifs that solidify to me that this is more of a LaFleur collaboration. But don't get me wrong, there are some non-LaFleur elements to this collaboration as well, with the main one being this running theme of candy and sweet treats, which adds to the childlike playfulness and whimsy in the collection. Examples of this are unique pieces like the waffle keeper bag, which has the syrup tag and this melting LV butter logo, which I think is really cool. Tyler has publicly said before that he has a real love for sweet treats and pastries, and that definitely made its way into the collection. In fact, the waffle bag and the syrup tag are probably a reference to a commercial he made about a decade ago for Aunt Wang syrup. But this love for sweet treats is trickled all over the collection. That waffle style and butter logo managed to make its way to even some of the footwear. There are eclair pastry keychains, and some people have even pointed out that the craggy monogram reminds them of like ice cream and marshmallows and sweet treats, which I definitely see the more I look at that monogram, to be honest. But sweet treats aside, Tyler himself and this collection seems to just present more as LaFleur. And in addition to taking Pharrell up on obviously a really awesome opportunity of being able to design a collection for Louis Vuitton in the first place, I think that this is also to help Tyler continue to solidify LaFleur as a luxury brand. As I said earlier, he has Golf Wang and he has Golf LaFleur, but the difference between them is that LaFleur has been introduced relatively recently in his career. Fans who have been invested in Tyler and his music since 2010 are familiar with Golf Wang, and some have even been buying it for over a decade now. These fans are used to the widely accepted streetwear pricing and the music artist merch pricing that Golf Wang has followed over the last decade. So now that Tyler's personal style and fashion choices have evolved, even though many fans are in awe of this new look he's developed, a very notable number of them are not in awe of the luxury pricing that comes attached to a trunk or a silk tie. At the end of the day, many of these fans are fans of his music and are not necessarily deeply interested in fashion at the level that Tyler is. I imagine it's been a bit of an uphill battle establishing LaFleur and the types of luxury ideas and products that he's been executing there. You often see comments on LaFleur and even on this Louis Vuitton announcement of fans asking Tyler to put down the prices of his latest endeavors. An actual collection under LV not only exposes him to a new audience of people who may be interested in the ideas and aesthetic he's presented and go on to shop at LaFleur themselves, but it also proves that Tyler's ideas are luxury ideas that even Louis Vuitton are willing to release themselves. And this slowly but probably effectively continues to prove to people that, oh, you know, this is the lane he wants to be in now. And I guess that sort of brings us to the question of, is Tyler a better creative director suited for Louis Vuitton than Pharrell? Which I've seen very heavily debated online. There's no doubt that this is a very cohesive collection that Tyler has presented, and it's one that people think not only looks very visually pleasing, but it's one they feel that they understand. And that's what I want to shift this conversation to, because that's where it actually is. Understanding. Understanding, or at least feeling like you understand, is what makes artistic things look good to you. When you watch a movie and you understand it, you'll feel like it was a good movie. If you didn't understand it, it wasn't a good movie. When you understood it and then you look up the explain videos and the details you miss videos, and you learn the additional lore around the TV show or the film, it makes you like it more. It makes it feel like it's a better piece of media. And this 100% happens in fashion as well. But I think in fashion, the understanding part tends to be the part that alienates a lot of people. I might watch a Margiela runway show, look at the collection, and not find it too visually appealing. The clothes might look completely outlandish and strange to me, but then I'll go away and find some show notes or an explain video on that collection that helps me understand it, and boom, all of a sudden it's a great collection to me and I love it. And I definitely think that's happening with Tyler's collection, and people just don't realize it yet. I think that most people have already a bit of background and context about him that makes it easier to just understand the collection from the get-go. Whether you're just a fan of his music or you've seen his Instagram posts over the years, that's enough of a peek into the world I described earlier that he's created around himself that definitely makes it easier to understand this collection that he's putting out now. These clothes look like the music his last album sounded like, and the collection looks like clothes he could have been wearing 3 years ago. Even if you're not into fashion, it's easy to identify these things, and if you're familiar with Tyler, you can quickly say, hey, I get what he's doing here, so I like it. But these same people with a Schiaparelli collection or an Alexander McQueen collection, they probably wouldn't be able to say the same thing. And I think what really confirms this to me is that if he somehow managed to get this same LV collaboration exactly the way it looks, but say in 2014, when his music and his style was very different, I don't think it would get the same love it's getting now, because the context we have surrounding it is gone, and in turn, so is our understanding, despite it being the same collection. Simply put, for a generation of people who listen to Tyler's music and are a fan of his work in general, this collection is a lot more accessible than a typical fashion collection. And yeah, while I do think that a lot of the points I just made regarding music and personal style can also be applied to Pharrell, I do think that Pharrell and Tyler are very similar figures, just for different generations. And I think that's why the question of, who's the better designer for LV can stir up such huge debates online. So yeah, while I don't have an answer on who I think the better designer is, what I can say is that I would have liked more from this collaboration on LV's side. I think that Tyler did what he needed to do on his end, but I would have liked some more things that made the collection more specific and unique to LV, in my opinion. When you look at previous collaborations that LaFleur has done with, say, Lacoste, a lot of those look very similar to this to me. I think that Tyler and the LaFleur motifs that he has are really strong and could have been paired with a lot of other luxury houses, and the way the collection looks, the final product, would have been about the same as this one. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had for today. Let me know what you thought of the collection and some of the details I highlighted, and let me know if you think that the debate between Tyler and Pharrell is even a warranted conversation. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm actually quite surprised that Tyler didn't do a video for this campaign, because he normally shoots really great music videos and campaigns like the one he did for Lacoste. But yeah, I've got 2 videos up on the screen that I think you'd be interested in, and if not, peace.